The following is a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of the advertiser. Opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
And good Sunday morning to everyone out there. Thank you so much for making us part of your weekend. We really appreciate it. This is Your Life, Your Money with Chris Creston. That's me. And Kelvin, the money guy. He's the guy that you're really tuned in to listen to. He's the guy with all of the big money knowledge, and he's one of the country's top financial advisors, and just a great guy to get to know and a great guy to listen to on your Sunday morning. You can always visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. You can call him too, 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. And as we're on the air live here, you can give us a call live on the air as well, 416-870-6400. That's 416-870-6400. And that's the number you call to get into the station all week long. Kelvin, how you doing this morning?
Actually good, Chris. How are you keeping? Everything good?
Good. You know what? It's getting colder outside. You know, it's at that time of year, right, when you're trying to keep up with the yard work and everything. And I'm a new homeowner myself, so that gardening and yard work that I was enjoying in the summer has now turned into a tedious task that I don't want to do. And there's piles of leaves that still need to make their way into bags and things like that. And some trees that are holdouts and don't want to drop their leaves yet. So that's always a fun part of the fall, right?
It seems like this year all the leaves are still on the trees and they haven't fallen for some reason. It's unbelievable, eh? Boy, I got up this morning.
It's like time to put up the Christmas lights and you've got brown leaves all over your tree.
Yeah. Huh. Oh well, I guess we're
not just here to talk about the leaves. We're not just here to talk about the leaves. We're here to talk about your life and your money. And one of the big things, of course, that as always comes up when you're thinking about your money life is the timing of your retirement. It's the money that you've got to save, and it's all the complications that come into that when you're also thinking about the inflation that we're hearing about as well. So there's so many different facets that you have to think about, and that's why it's good to have someone on your side. It's not just, a robot that's spitting out numbers at you. This is important to have a real human being who's seen the road ahead because he's been there before. And that's why Kelvin, the money guy, is a great guy to listen to. Kelvin, when we're talking about retirement, as we often do, today you've brought to us the information that's come from a recent poll that shows some interesting numbers on Canadians and their retirement. Yeah,
so the last 2 weeks, I guess, when you tune on to the radio or TV about some Canadians actually haven't even experienced so it's now starting to rear its head again. So it's up as we go forward, and that's going to have a big impact on our retirement planning. So there was a poll that was done. It says that 77% of Canadians, age 50, their finances, their retirement. Many people feel like they haven't saved enough, and they really need to sit and put pen to paper. And I'm born between 1955 and say 69. You're the people, that age group is the one that's going to face retirement soon. So you're that age, right? In fact, inflation, most people don't know what inflation is. Inflation really is our enemy because it erodes our dollar, right? Think about this for example. The Big Mac was born in 1968, and it was 45 cents for a Big Mac, right? In 1980, it was $1.60. Today, it's about $4. So think about that. When you were born in 1968 and you got a Big Mac, and look what the price is today. Did we ever think that would happen? So we really never thought about it. So those are the kind of thinking we have to do on a go forward, right? I have clients that tell me they paid more for their last car than they did for their first house. So we really need to step back and think about that. and really manipulate our money to take advantage or hedge inflation as we go forward. So, do we have a retirement crisis looming? I don't know. And I think that's why it's important to sit down with your advisor and have a chat about how is your money invested? How old are you today, and what is the future, right? Are you gonna keep up with the cost of living? That kind of stuff we need to worry about. The tradition when you have your asset mix was 60% in the stock markets, in GICs and things like bonds and things like that. Well, if you're going to live, most of us live 30 years into our retirement, live longer in retirement than we did on our working years. So if our money doesn't keep up with that, we're going to have quite some time, or we might not retire when we want to. So the asset mix on the go forward really has to change to keep up things like that. So that's why people need to sit back and really have a thought of where they're heading and reevaluate every so often. Where am I? Do I have enough? Things like that.
And you asked an interesting question. Do we have a retirement crisis looming? And I think for most people, that it could be a headline. Is there a retirement crisis looming? What does it mean for everyone en masse? But when it comes down to it, it matters to you and your family. So when you're listening to us right now, you may have a retirement crisis looming, or you may not. And it comes down to the decisions that you make and the actions that you take with your money, and whether or not you've got someone like Kelvin, the money guy, in your corner.
And retirement planning is not a one fits all, because it's not a cookie cutter approach. Like, don't take that towards retiring or adding anything of plans would eliminate a lot of fear of outliving our money. And it'll help us. One of the big thing I find with retirement planning is taxes. If your retirement strategies aren't based on a plan to minimize tax, you may end up spending more on taxes than keeping a roof on your head or buying food, because as you know, our taxes are a big piece of our dollar, right? So we really need to minimize that as on a go forward. So again, I say people need to sit down with their advisor and just see where you are, where you're heading. How much money have I saved for my retirement? So after the break, we'll maybe delve in a little bit more into this.
Perfect. And we'll continue talking about that, talk about, that tax mix, how that works into it after you've done paying Doug and Justin, what's left for you and your family, and what happens with your retirement planning, talking about Canadians and their retirement habits. Whether you're one of these people, 77% of Canadian aged 55 to 69 are worried about their retirement. Is that you? You can give us a call live on the air here at 416-870-6400. And don't forget, you can always visit Kelvin's website. That's askkelvin.ca, askkelvin.ca. All you have to do, go to that website and click in the top right-hand corner, schedule a call, and you can set up a time where Kelvin will talk to you for 30 minutes, chat about anything we've talked about here today or something completely different. You just want to pick his brain, give him a call. askkelvin.ca, and you can always give him a call directly at 416-457-7526. More of your life, your money, continuing here on Global News Radio, 640 Toronto.
You are listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
And welcome back to Your Life, Your Money right here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. I'm just repeating what the big voice guy says. So, redundancy. I'm a big fan of it. I'm a twin myself. I have twins of my own. I'm all about duplicating tasks. So here we are, me repeating after the big voice guy. We had a few technical difficulties in the last segment, so thank you for bearing with us. And I think we've got everything ironed out. If you need to reach out to Kelvin, if you want to reach out to Kelvin, if you just want to see a picture of the guy, go to his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And right there on the website, you can schedule a call with him. You pick the time and the date that you want to chat with Kelvin, and you get a complimentary call with him right there. You just hit schedule a call, set up that time and date, and here we go. Right now, we're talking about retirement. As we often do, it's a big deal. It's it's the end game of your whole investment portfolio, everything that you've been building towards ends with retirement. But looking at this survey out of CIBC, 77% of Canadian aged 55 to 69, sound familiar, worried about retirement. Probably a lot of you are out there worried about retirement. I'm not in that age bracket. I'm already worried about retirement. So I can only imagine as you get closer to it, the more concerned you're going to be, especially as things you weren't planning on start to happen. Like, let's say, global pandemics or, record inflation, things like that. That can kind of throw a stick in the spokes of your retirement wheels.
Well, think about this. Remember, as of July this year, 2021, approximately 7.1 million Canadians are aged 65 and older, right? And 5.3 million are between 55 and 65. So that's about 32% of the population. So we are a young country, but with older people. And the thing is, the average man lives till 84, average woman lives till 87. In fact, they say if you're born this year, 20, like your kids, will live about 100 years.
I plan on it. But that's the thing. I dream of a future where my children need not die. I don't know if they put their brains into robots or something like that, but in some world, I think that we've got a future where, longevity and lifespan it seems to be growing exponentially when you look at the lifespan for our grandparents, our great grandparents, and now today. But the thing is that comes with some added costs, right? Because It used to be that you would retire and then live for a few years and then sadly pass away. Now you've got a lot more road ahead of you after retirement, and that's a great thing because you get to enjoy that time and you get to enjoy your grandkids or your great grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to make sure you've got a good plan in order to make that comfortable and not a nightmare.
Right. Well, think about this. In 1968, and I'm using 68 because that's the year the Big Mac was born. If you had $100,
I'm just hungry. I got to go out and get a Big Mac after this show.
It will only be worth today $14.02. So we really need to sit down and plan this stuff out. Nearly 3 out of 5 Canadians in the poll that was done said that saving for retirement is complicated, and they wish they knew more. When you think about it, I think in the financial industry, I think we make it even more complicated. We talk about all this stuff that we kind of maybe scare people off from saving for retirement because we talk about, you need $1 million and things like that to retire. And sometimes it's not true. Sometimes, when we do our retirement calculation to figure out how much money we're going to have, people when they did the survey, they said they need 756,000 sitting somewhere, TFSAs, RSPs, whatever you may have. But it's kind of disturbing because that's might seem like a lot of money or not too much, but we don't take into account CPP. I mean, we live in the best country in the world, I think, anyhow. So we get CPP, we get old age. That's about $1,200, right? So you're married, that's $2,400 coming in. To give you $1,000 a month when you're 65 to 93, you need $220,000 somewhere, earning you 5%. So, it's really not a daunting task. So I think you really need to sit down and work backwards. I always say work your money life backwards. Live your life forward, have a great time. But live your money life backwards. Find out when I'm going to retire, what age. Could be, I don't know, 60, 60, whatever age you want. And find out, when do I take my CPP? When do I take my old age? And how much money do I need? And I think if we did that exercise, our retirement planning would be more uncomplicated. And those are the things that I think that we don't do. It's like a puzzle, right? And the easiest part of the puzzle to solve is reach out and ask for help. The real danger in retirement planning is not getting the help that you need. So don't make it complicated. Find someone, talk to your advisor. That's the first place I always say is go to your advisor and sit down with them and figure out when you're going to retire, how much money you're going to have, what your CPP is. We know what your old age will be, and go from there and make that your starting point.
And so many people are obviously frozen in this sort of complication of all of it and the indecision that you get, and even that starting point of figuring out, working backwards, when do I want to retire? Because a lot of people think, well, when do I want to retire? I don't know, because I don't know how much money I need or how much money I'm going to have. And that's
right.
Why it's important to talk to somebody who's been there before, who's seen other people's plans go from this point, the planning stage, to retirement and onward. And then you've got the experience to walk through it, right? To have a financial advisor like Kelvin on your side, you've got someone who can walk you through those things so that it's not so daunting, so that there's an explanation, so that there's some understanding. It's not, and you don't feel like you're just sort of feeling around in the dark, which I think a lot of us are.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. We will walk around. We really don't think about retirement too much. People rarely talk about how much money they'll need in retirement. Instead, the focal point of the conversation is, what they hope to do in retirement. So I think we need to kind of blend both of those things. And listen, when I talk about retirement, it's not just only about retirement. What's going to happen in my next year of my life, the next 3, the next 5 years? Now that we can travel again, right? Plan that trip if you're okay with it. To go somewhere. How much is it going to cost me? What do I have to do today to travel in the next 3 years or 2 years or whatever? So the whole gist of all of this is sitting down and putting some pen to paper and figuring out where you want to be and how efficient you're going to do things. The most important, perhaps the most important tax-related action you can take in retirement is to create, I think, a withdrawal strategy. Look at which accounts when you're ready to retire, which accounts are you going to take first, right? In our when we talk about real estate, what do we talk about? Location, right? Well, when you talk about your money for retirement, it's the same thing. You just replace location with RSP, TFSA, RIFs. So where am I going to take it first, right? So Canada has a graduated tax system, right? So everything that you take when you retire is taxed differently. So you want to avoid a lot of income stuff when you retire. So you want to look at capital gains, dividends, interest income is taxed highly. So you really need to strategize about things. In fact, some people maybe have too much. I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but have too much money in their RSPs. That might lead to quite the problem when they get older, because we don't realize that there's clawbacks, right? So if your income is above 70,000, you might not get the old age, right?
That's something that I found interesting when we first started doing this show, and we'd start hearing from people who are in exactly that situation, whether they're government employees, teachers, civil servants, people with like big pension plans through work, whether maybe you work for a big company that gives you a big pension plan. And then also, as a good, responsible citizen, you keep putting money into your RSPs, and then it comes time to retire and you realize it's actually working against you. So some people desperately need to put their money into RSPs and TFSAs to save their money and make sure that they're retired comfortably. And other people maybe you want to hold back. And that's something that you're not going to hear from, your union. You're not going to hear that from your
No,
boss. You might not even
right.
hear that from your coworkers, because the coworkers who have learned that lesson are already retired and not working there anymore. So it's
Right.
good to have a financial advisor who's been there and seen it.
Good point. Many people that I see that work at, like you say, at government jobs, have, healthy pensions like Hoop and things like that. I try and encourage them not to buy outside RSP outside of that, because what happens is many of them, when they hit this factor that they have, get to retire. So the problem is, if they leave the job or whatever, they get this lump sum of money. So if you fill up your RSP room, you're going to be paying a lot of money on taxes. So I think you got to be very strategic. That's like another whole show, because that's something that people just don't realize, that you see, RSPs, well, they're okay, and that's all. People that were born in those years, in the '60s, whatever, that's all they knew, is to put money in the RSP. Well, the TFSA is the new kid in town, because that was born in 2009. And when people are surveyed now, younger people, they rather put the money in a TFSA rather than an RSP. The TFSA is just an upside down RSP. So it's kind of backwards, where the RSP you save today, but you have to pay back down the road. So if you believe that taxes are going to go down in the future, load up on RSPs, buy as much as you can. But if you think it's going to stay the same or go up, maybe be strategic. Maybe pay a little bit of the tax today on your income and avoid a lot of taxes down the road. So those are kind of things that the conversations that I think we need to have. So maybe after the break, we'll go into some tips about how to build and secure your nest egg as you head into these golden years, right?
Important stuff, and that's coming up on Your Life, Your Money right here with Kelvin, the Money Guy. Don't forget, you can always reach out to him at askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. Click on that schedule a call link, or just listen to past shows. There's all sorts of other resources there on his website that you can listen to. If you heard part of this show that you want to share with your spouse or loved one or friend or family, that's available online as well. askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. Stay tuned for more of those tips. Kelvin's going to have some tips coming up on the other side of the break here as we talk about how to build that nest egg, what's important to keep in mind when you're starting to build that, and how to plan for that retirement to make sure you're not one of these people who are worried about retirement. Hey, we started the show talking about the CIBC poll that said that a number of Canadians, 77% of Canadians aged 55 to 69 are worried about their retirement. Want to make sure that that's not you? Stay tuned to Global News Radio, 640 Toronto.
You are listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
Here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto and Your Life, Your Money, I'm Chris Creston, joined as always by Kelvin, the Money Guy, and we're talking about your retirement, we're talking about your savings, we're talking about what goes into that, how do you build that nest egg. And we started off with this poll from CIBC. Maybe it's your bank, maybe it's a bank next to your bank, but it says that 77% of Canadians aged 55 to 69 are worried about retirement savings. That's big. That's most of them. So if you think about that, those people who are approaching retirement or should have already been retired, but they're they're worried about their savings because it's just too much going on. It's daunting. Maybe they've got some setbacks. Of course, COVID has been a setback in so many ways for so many people. So it's understandable. So maybe that's you. You're one of the 77% aged 55 to 69 who's worried about your savings. Maybe you're one of the 32% of Canadians that are nearing retirement without any savings whatsoever. This is time to start thinking about that. If you're in that position, if you're nearing retirement, you don't have your savings, you think, well, what am I going to do? Just work until forever? Well, that's not necessarily a realistic goal, and maybe not one that you want. Some people love their jobs, but at some point you got to call it quits a little bit. You got to back off, and you got to start sort of enjoying that retirement if you can. And how do you do that? Maybe it seems too daunting. Well, Kelvin's got some tips that we're going to talk about as we continue here on the show on how to build that nest egg, what you need to take into account, and how you can start making those plans for your retirement, whether you're 55 or whether you're 69 or whether you're 32. What do you need to do to make those savings plans, and how do you do it? If you need to reach out to Kelvin, if you want to reach out to him anytime, go to askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. You can schedule a call with him right there. You pick the time, you pick the date, and you make that call with Kelvin, and you put it in your calendar, askkelvin.ca. Now, Kelvin, one of the things when we do this show, we do it week in, week out. We talk about things all the time. And I feel like sometimes we forget what we know that we take for granted, that, the audience may sometimes scratch their head and think, wait a minute, what is that? What is that thing, that the acronym that he keeps saying, the RSP, the TFSA? It might be a good point right now, before we get into those tips for your nest egg, to re-explain what some of those things are, and because those are the things that you're building your retirement on.
So I think we all understand what an RSP is because it's been around forever. The TFSA, the tax-free savings account, I think a lot of us have a misconception of that thing. First of all, the name is wrong. It should be a TFIA, an investment account. And when it first came out, people use it as a savings, so they'll put money in and take money out. Well, you can't. You have to leave the money in for a year. Otherwise, you're penalized 1% for every month, right? So the TFSA is probably one of the best saving vehicles out there. So you put in 20,000 in, it goes up to 30 grand. The 10,000 you made is actually, you don't pay any tax on it. So it's a tax-free savings account. It's a no tax account is what they should call it, something like that, right? And there's limits. So you can put in up today, you can put in 75,500, and every year you can add 6,000 to it every year. So it's a powerful tool for us to save money. So you're right.
Yeah, the tax savings is on the growth. It's not
that's right.
against your income this year like an RSP. This tax saving is on the growth when you decide to take it out.
Right. So it's a powerful thing. People that have money sitting in the bank, set up a TFSA. Sometimes the banks, and not to pick on banks, but they really don't encourage people to do things like that. Why? I have no idea. I have some kind of idea, but they don't do things like that. So yeah, our business is full of acronyms. So yeah, you're right. Sometimes we should take the time to explain what these acronyms are. But to move on in the show now, the building your nest egg, there's things that you have to do. The one thing I feel is to plan your lifestyle and make the future as predictable as possible. Like really narrow down to what is Chris's life going to look like in 10 years from now? What's his income going to be? Things like that, So try and zero in. Sit down with your spouse and zero in on where you want to be. Also understand your spending today and estimate what it's likely to be like in retirement. The pandemic really gave us a taste of retirement, right? I mean, look, you're stuck in your closet.
Yeah, so literally. That is where I do the show from.
Right. So the pandemic also gave us a lot of money in our pocket because we're not driving anywhere. I can see for myself, you don't fill up as much. So a lot of money that we've saved. So what are we doing with this money? A lot of clients call me. I call clients every 3 months or so, and I get the call, "Oh, Calvin, I got $5 grand in the bank that I didn't know that I would have." So they put it away, things like that. And I think one of the big thing is to work with your financial advisor. If you don't have one, give me a call and project your income and expenses. Have a feel for, what am I spending? Am I spending more than I'm taking in? What am I doing? Because what the habits you do today will magnify itself or amplify itself when you're older and the income kind of stops. You're not making that big income anymore because you're retired. You're just getting old age pension income or whatever. So what is it going to look like? What am I going to look like in 10 years from now? Like I say, 7.1 million Canadians are over 65. So that those people, when they turn their RSPs into a RIF, here we go with the acronyms again. So the RIF is a retirement income fund. You're paying yourself back from the RSP. What are my implications going to be? When you're 71, you have to start taking the money out, and your first payment starts when you're 72. And I think it's about 5% of the money you have in your RSPs, lifts, RIFs, all that kind of stuff. So, if you have 800,000 in your RSPs, that's $40,000 that you're taking out, plus your old age and so on. Then you might be in some issues. So that's why I'm saying look at your income and your expenses as you move forward. And one thing I find, it doesn't matter what age you are, is try and put your saving plan on autopilot. Try and make, how we pay our mortgage and car insurance and Rogers or whatever, it comes out automatically, right? Many of us, because we don't want to bother with it. Well, make your savings have it like that. They say pay yourself first. Give yourself, it used to be 10%, save 10% of what you make, but it's really hard today for people because prices have gone up, inflation has eroded everything. So try and make whatever money you can save automatic, so you don't think about it, you don't miss it. And it's funny, after about 6 months, you'll look back and go, man, this is okay, this is good, I got money saved up. So it's all in our...
Make sure you set up that automatic payment for your hydro bill or something like that. Yeah. That's coming out on a certain date because you know that it's going to work out with the due date of your bill. So knowing when you're going to get paid, so say you get paid in the 15th and the 30th of every month, or you get paid every 2 weeks, set up a automatic withdrawal from your checking account into that TFSA or into wherever you're going to put it. And that goes without you thinking about it. And you're not worried about it. You don't miss it and skip it and think, oh man, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next month. I'll do it. And sooner or later, that's just on another list of to-dos that's never going to get done, along with that birdhouse that's half built and the lawn that is still covered in leaves. There's a lot of things that are tasking us in our time and our mental energy, and taking that off of that list is simple because you set it up once and it's done.
And you don't have to pinch your pennies to feel confident about how long your money will last. You don't have to do that. After the break, I'll talk about some of the other points to really help you build your nest egg, and don't worry about it too much.
Terrific. That's coming up here on Your Life, Your Money, right here on Global News Radio. Don't forget, you can reach out to Kelvin by visiting his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. Give him a call at 416-457-PLAN. That's 416-457-7526. And stay tuned here to Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
You are listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
And maybe you're someone who's feeling under pressure. A lot of people are worried about their retirement, thinking about it. We've got this poll coming out from CIBC recently telling us how many people are worried about retirement. 77% of Canadians aged 55 to 69 are worried about their finances. 32% of Canadians are nearing retirement without any savings. So that's a big chunk of people between 45 and 64 who have nothing saved for retirement at all. And I don't say that to shame someone. I say that to say, well, you know what? There's a solution. There's answers. Mm-hmm. It's not, if you get to that point, you're not out of road. There's still a path to take. There's still a hand to play in all of this, and you can make sure that you can still maximize your retirement and still live a comfortable retirement, that maybe the one that you've been dreaming of. And part of that is having a plan. Part of that is having someone like Kelvin, the money guy, on your side. If you don't have a financial advisor, call Kelvin. If you do have a financial advisor and you want a second opinion, you can call him too. 416-457-7526. That's 457-PLAN, and you can always visit the website askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. You can schedule a call with them right there on the website. You pick the time and the date, and away you go, and you can start chatting with them about your retirement. Maybe you're feeling under pressure and you need to say, help me out. And that's how you do it. You go and you call up Kelvin and you get started talking to someone who's been there before, who's seen the road ahead and knows how to navigate it. And that's what we're talking about here today, talking about some of those tips on building your nest egg. And that's where we left off.
Well, one of the thing I find, is you need to invest your money for the long term. But saying that, you really need to revisit the investment plan regularly. It used to be once a year, but I think because we're older, it has to be at least twice. If not, like I call my clients every quarter to give them the heads up, good or bad, what the quarter look like, where things are heading. And are we keeping up to our goals of retirement? Because retirement will be in the next 5 to 10 years for many of my clients anyhow. So yeah, the once a year reviewing is out the window. If that's what you're doing, you better look for another advisor, because depending on your age, right? When you're 40 versus when you're 60, two different things, right? More things are important to you when you're 60 than when you're 40. So the reviewing is the most important part of your financial plan, I think, anyhow. And then the last thing I think is you want to determine when's the best time to draw down on your pensions, your personal savings. Like I said, look at all the things that you have, the RSPs, the TFSAs, the LIFs, the RIFs, wherever you're getting money from. And there's a sequence of events to take, keeping taxes in mind, because that's really our next inflation. That's really our enemy, is how do we take our money out to minimize our taxation? So if you're in your late 50s or early 60s, maybe drawing down or decumulating your RSP might make sense for you. I don't know. Before you make that decision, you have to sit with your advisor and talk maybe to your accountant or someone and figure out that strategy of, do I do this now or do I wait? So that's an individual thing, right? Like everything else in our world, everything is individual. Like I say, there's no cookie cutter plan for retirement and how to save for your retirement. There's so many choices now that we never used to have. And I think many people don't explore it. Look, we're heading into the end of the year, right? And guess what's going to happen come maybe December is RSPs. You'll be bombarded with why you should buy an RSP, why you should borrow to buy an RSP. Well, many times it doesn't make any sense to borrow to buy an RSP. Many times, you know what, pay the tax today and move on. You'll be mad about it, but at the end of the day, you'll be madder down the road if you didn't do it right. And instead of paying a little bit of money today, you might have to pay a lot down the road. I don't know. But don't guess, don't guess about these kind of things. Put pen to paper, sit down with your advisor and plan it out. Otherwise, you'll look back, the should have, could have guy we always talk about, right? You'll be one of those. So don't do that.
I feel like the older I get, the more shoulda, coulda guy I become. There's so many situations where I look back in the rearview mirror and I wish I did something differently. And it's so easy. It's most of the time I feel that I've been a shoulda, coulda guy is the times that I did nothing, right? It's not the times that I did the wrong thing. It's the times that I did nothing. And I sat on the sidelines and I waited and I didn't make a plan. And the same decision that I made, this year after waiting 3 years to make it, I would have made it. I would have made the same decision. So you might as well, act on your instinct and do the right thing and make sure that you've got a plan. And, there's so many things. We went through these points. Plan your lifestyle and make the future as predictable as possible. I think sort of the things that you want to do and the things that you plan to do in your retirement. Well, if you can predict that, I want to take a vacation every year. I want to go here. I want to golf. I want to go see a play. I want to go see a concert. I want to make sure I'm at a sporting event once a month or something like that. These are things that you can try to build in your retirement savings plan.
Well, I don't know if that plan includes seeing the Leafs play, but anyhow, why? anyhow, why you want to work with a financial planner? Okay, and the reason you want to do that, like you say, it's hard to do both long-term planning or big picture planning and day-to-day investment decisions on your own. It's really difficult. And like I say, you live your money life backwards. So when you look at your long-term thing, it's, your money, your health, your family, your dreams. All these retirement topics are highly emotional, and it can be difficult to maintain your perspective. So a financial advisor could really be an ally to you, to give you unbiased advice and make sure that you're ready for your day to day and for your future. So what we do is we're able to bring you ideas and keep you from straying from your path that you've chosen, because a plan isn't worth much if you don't stick to it. So I would say sit with your advisor and make sure you plan it out. We're heading into the end of the year. Look back to January till now and see where you were. Did you accomplish what you wanted to do? Did your return turn out to be what it is? Did your risk adhere to? And make some future plan. Don't wait till January, February when you don't know what you want to do. You know what I mean? So pretty much like I say, sit down with your advisor and put pen to paper and you'll do fine.
No time like the present to reach out to your advisor, reach out to Kelvin and start making that plan, making sure you've got that nest egg planned out and making sure that you're not one of these people who are stuck worried about retirement. Kelvin, thanks again for another great show. Thanks for making us part of your Sunday. To everyone out there listening, we really appreciate it. And don't forget, you can always reach out to Kelvin at 416-457-PLAN. That's 416-457-7526. And you can go to his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca, and schedule a call. You know what? You don't want to call and have to leave a voicemail or anything like that. You call, you schedule that call, you pick the time and the date, and it's set up. It's in your calendar. It's in Kelvin's calendar. And then you guys have a chat about that nest egg, about planning for retirement and where you go forward from here. Thanks again, Kelvin, for another great show.
Thanks, Chris. Have a great day.
And thank you all for listening. Stay tuned to Global News Radio, 640 Toronto.
The preceding was a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of the advertiser. Opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.